Welcome to the Urban Affairs Program. It's time to get up for Urban Perspectives with your host, Pete Rose.
My first guest came to prominence as a first-round draft choice for the Minnesota Vikings in 1967. He played in 218 games, 6-time All-Pro, 9 times Pro Bowl selection, NFL's MVP in 1971, and inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was elected to the Minnesota Supreme Court in 1992 as the first African-American on the court, serving until 2015. He is the founder, along with his wife Diane, of the Page Education Foundation. Please welcome to Urban Perspectives the Honorable Alan Page. How you doing, Judge?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm so glad to have you here. I think the last time we kind of met was when they put the goalpost up over at the boys' club or shelter over there.
Yes,
yeah.
Over in South Minneapolis.
In South
right?
Minneapolis.
Right.
That's when Coach Tice was with the Minnesota Vikings, and we had a chance to meet, and I did a little interview with you for some previous stuff that we used to do. So I'm so glad to have you here, and we often see you as we walk around the lakes. You're normally around a lot earlier than us, and we're catching you on your way in.
When we're finishing up.
Yeah, it's still good, still good.
It's good to be out there.
Yeah, it is, it is. So growing up, I guess I want to ask you, where were your role models? Who were your role models in sports as well as in academics?
I really didn't have any sports role models. I wasn't particularly interested in sports for the most part as a young man. I would go out and play. I liked doing that, but organized sports just didn't hit me until I was a freshman in high school.
Wow, that's interesting.
Beyond that, Thurgood Marshall,
yes,
Martin Luther King Jr., and a whole host of people who were involved in the civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s had a tremendous influence on me. But the reality is, like most of us, the most influential people were my parents and family.
Yeah. So as a young man growing up, as you talked about in the 60s, how did the struggle strengthen your resolve for success, you think, Justice Page?
It's hard to say how the struggle itself. I knew from very early on that to be successful, you had to work hard and to overcome whatever the obstacles were.
Okay.
And my parents, one of the things that they stressed with me, not that they quite understood it in this context, but it was seeking excellence, being good at what you do, not for whatever the rewards might be, but to push yourself to find out who you are. And in doing that, that helped me a lot in terms of not being distracted by the racism, by whatever the obstacle may have been.
At that time, yeah.
Because when if you seek excellence, be the best that you can be, it allows you to overcome a lot of that.
Yeah, I see. Great point. Well, you said high school you began to get into sports, so we all know that you are a celebrated collegiate as well as a professional athlete. But what made you choose law after that career?
I was interested in the law
first,
much earlier than I was interested in football. My interest in the law started 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Probably a little too much Perry Mason, but also I can still remember reading newspaper articles about the Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus the Board of Education. I was 8 years old at that time.
Fascinated by it.
And that captured me.
Yeah.
The notion that the law had the power to change an education system, and then ultimately in the process change lives.
Yeah.
And create hope. That had a big impact on me.
Yeah, that was great. That's great. So as we look now forward at your Minnesota Supreme Court Justice career, what was one of your most impactful decisions, you think?
I never, people ask that question. They also ask the question.
I thought that was a unique question.
They asked that question, what was, the most important or the most impactful?
Of course.
And I didn't look at cases like that. My focus was what are the facts, what are the law, and how do we get to the best decision? And once you start looking at this one's more important than the next one or the last one,
excuse your,
well, all of a sudden you're in it deciding what's important and not trying to figure out what the law is.
I see.
And I think that's a dangerous path to go down.
How was it sitting on the court overall? I mean, you were the first African American to be elected that, and just sitting on that court with the other individuals.
The most fascinating, challenging, fun thing I've ever done in my life.
Really?
Being in the room when we're in conference, working through difficult and complex issues, trying to understand where they're coming from, the other members of the court, and trying to articulate where I was coming from, and trying to make it all fit together.
Right. Nothing like it.
Nothing like it, nothing better.
I want to ask you now, as we move to your foundation, has awarded over 12 million grants since 1988. Can you explain the work of the Page Foundation for us?
We started in 1988 with the idea of encouraging, motivating, and assisting young men and women of color pursue education beyond high school. I spent a lot of time and continue to spend a lot of time in schools and classrooms. And for far too many of our young children of color, there was a disconnect between what they were doing in the classroom and their futures. And my wife Diane and I thought that we could impact that. So we do two things. One, we provide financial assistance to students going to Minnesota schools. And two, more importantly, we require our grant recipients, we call them Page Scholars.
Yes.
We require them to work with young children, kindergarten through 8th grade, specifically in the area of education.
That's great.
So that those young children can see someone who looks like them, who maybe has some shared experience with them, using education as a tool for their futures. So that those young people can have at least the beginnings of an understanding that, hey, there's something I can do in life. There is hope.
Right. Fantastic job. I know you've written books with your daughter, and you've got this now that you retired from the bench to work forward on, and great job in what you're doing. We really appreciate you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, Justice Alan Page, we appreciate it.
Thank you.